All right, here we go. We have one of the great artists of our generation right now, who not only sold millions and millions and millions of records, but is responsible for bringing electricity to millions of Africans.
Right.
And like I've said before, someone who I feel will be remembered more for their humanitarian work than all the incredible music that they've dropped. Man, Akon, we go back 15 years.
Right.
Always a pleasure when we sit down.
Man, it really is.
Yes, sir. Well, we've done a lot of interviews over the years, but we've never done a real extensive sit down.
Right.
So I want to get into the whole Akon story from the very beginning. So you were actually born in Senegal.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, were you born in Senegal or in the U.S.?
Well, this is how it is. Well, my dad made sure that all of us was in the States. He made sure we was all born in the States so we have our citizenship.
Aha.
So shortly after birth, we all got shipped back to Africa.
Aha.
And then we was raised there until around 7, 8. And then we came back to the U.S. and then continued grammar school in the States into high school.
Mm-hmm.
After that, but then every summer we would go back home, like literally every summer until I graduated from high school.
Okay. So what was the experience like initially in Senegal?
Oh man, the experience there was actually, it almost felt like it was like stress-free. You know, you're surrounded by family.
Yeah.
Obviously I was a kid, so there was no bills, responsibility to worry about, but you was always surrounded by people that love you. You know what I'm saying? Everything in Africa is pretty much family orientated. That's why we so close now as family members, me and my brothers and everybody. It was totally different environment. You know, the food there was fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Like you was raised by the community, the neighborhood, the village. So everybody felt like family, you know what I'm saying? Only difference is, of course, at that age, I didn't really know what amenities were, you know, because we didn't really have sinks. We drank out of well water, cooked from the well water, bathed from the well water, drank from the well water. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everything was well water. And then as far as heat and electricity, it was bonfires, kerosene lamps, candles, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've actually spent a few weeks in Dakar,
right.
in Senegal, and I lived with a family out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell you the one thing that was so profound about my experience out there, because, you know, although I was born in Russia, I grew up in the US. And growing up in the US as a white kid around Black people, there was always a certain tension I've always noticed.
Right.
You know, like me and a Black man that I don't know would walk by the street and we look at each other and there's a little bit of apprehension and so forth.
Right.
And I just figured, well, I guess just inherently Blacks and whites don't trust each other or whatever else, until I went to Senegal. And when I went out there and I'm walking around and Senegalese meet me and they say hello, and there's like this level of, there's this lack of tension.
Right.
And this level of friendliness.
It's acceptance.
And it's suddenly, it just blew my mind where I just realized that, like racism isn't just something that's just natural. It's something because of the US.
Right.
And the history of slavery.
Right.
And all the horrific things that Black people went through.
Right.
But when you go to Africa, where these people are at home.
Right.
They haven't been torn out of their homes and had their last names changed and forgot about their, got their history erased. It's a different
perspective.
Yeah.
Towards white folks there, because it's kind of weird because they actually was taken from there and brought here.
Yeah.
And then when they got here, they experienced what they experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But they never really experienced that in Africa. Like, in other words, it's kind of weird because in Africa, the slavery you wasn't a slave in Africa. You was a slave when you left Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas later down the line, I think, hundreds of years later, where they became these civil wars and, neighboring countries coming in and take resources that create these wars amongst tribes. That's when the apartheid and all this other stuff start coming about. Mm-hmm. Whereas the whole divide and conquer issues that went on in Africa, that's probably the most they ever experienced when it comes to relations with white folks there. You know what I mean?
Because Senegal was a French colony.
Right.
Right.
It still is, practically.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah, you can say it ain't, but it's still controlled.
They still sell French bread and they have like little French flags.
Still spending French money. As long as you spending French money, you're being
you spend French money in Senegal.
Yeah, the CFA is made by the French.
Aha.
Which, mind you now, you can't spend that money in France. It's not worth anything.
Oh, wow.
Ain't that fucked up?
That's fucked up.
Right. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to start Akon, so we can have our own currency there.
And I want to talk about that.
Right.
But the one thing in Senegal, when it comes to slavery, is the island of Gorée.
Gorée Island, yeah.
Gorée Island, one of the saddest places I've ever been to.
No, man, listen.
I cried when
I
I was
don't
there.
think there's no one that ever walked out of there with dry eyes. Like when you hear the stories that happened on that island, the descendants from that island, the history of how that island came about, how they used to gather all the slaves and ship them from that point and that door of no return. I mean, it's a powerful. I mean, you can still feel the energy when you go into those bunkers. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it basically was the slave distribution center of
Right.
West Africa.
Right.
All the slaves would go and get put in these cages,
Right.
essentially, and they would have cannons that surround it just in
Right.
case someone wanted to steal those slaves.
Right.
And then all the boats
Right.
from around the world, from
Report.
Europe, would go to this island,
Pick up.
Right. Thousands of slaves, and then take them to America, Jamaica,
Right.
South America, wherever.
Yes, it was deep. It was 2 ports like that. There was one in Senegal, and then they would go from there straight to Ghana.
Uh-huh.
Ghana also has the same type of bunkers, and then from there they go straight into Europe.
But
Senegal was a starting point.
Isn't it just crazy in 2020 that people actually did this? Like they actually just treated human beings like they were cows or goats and
No, it's crazy. I can't even fathom the thought of it, honestly.
Yeah.
You know?